Hi, so today I have with me Prateek. Prateek is a chartered accountant, and why he is on this podcast is because Prateek, in spite of being in Calcutta, has experienced the unconventional areas, specifically startups, where he has been the finance lead in two startups or media companies, if I were to say. So, welcome to the show, Prateek.
Thank you so much, Anurag. Thank you so much for this introduction.
Yeah. So I just wanted to just understand a bit about your journey. You've been born and brought up in Kolkata, and how has that been? And then what led to CA, happy, sad moments in the academic journey. So this answer should address up to that point where you were a student, why you chose CA, and then
Sure. Thank you so much. So yeah, I am Prateek Losalka. I'm from Kolkata, and carry a decade of experience in finance and accounts. On the educational front, I'm a qualified chartered accountant and also holds a bachelor's degree. When I come to happy and sad moments, I'll start with my primary school, which was pretty much challenging academically. You might be surprised to know that I used to get a fever before my mathematics exam, and it used to happen often. In fact, in class 9, I have scored as low as 2, 3, and 5 in my three terms, respectively, in mathematics out of 100. So, that led to a very critical moment when my parents were summoned in school to discuss about my, potential demotion. That was a moment wherein which was very sad in my life, and which also was the reason why you are seeing me as I am today. That day, other teachers have consoled my principal to let me pass through, so that at least they will help me get at least 33 in class 10. It used to be CBSE, so there was 20 marks in project, and you need to score the rest of the 13 marks in out of 80, right? So that's how they consoled a principal that let's just pass through Prateek, and he can do it for 33 at least. So that was the moment when I thought that now it is the right time. You need to change. I changed my approach. I started studying mathematics obsessively, and discovered that mastering math would also make other subjects easier. The happy moment came when I transformed myself, obviously, becoming the top scorer in mathematics and achieving third rank overall in the school. This newfound love for numbers, I would rather recall as the moment when I thought that chartered accountancy might be the career to choose, because I was actually starting to like numbers. Yeah, that changed my entire life, I would say. It is very motivating for myself also when I look back, and I see the change journey. So yeah, that was the sad and happy moment, I would say, from my educational background. Yep, happy to answer anything else.
yeah. So then once you became a CA, you got into Hoichoi TV and now into
Right,
NowPurchase, which is a VC
right, right,
startup. Now, this is
right.
very a different world as compared to joining a traditional conglomerate like a Tata or a Birla, which I did, or maybe any sort of where there is perceived stability, which is more, etc. And there is more prestige and shadi achhi ho jayegi because you have a big name. So why did you choose these kind of career choices? What's the difference? How does one enter these kind of places? And is survival really difficult?
Sure. So, on the career front, I actually, will start that, I started my career from the CA firms wherein I led teams in taxation accounts, audits, and served over, 100 plus clients. Then I thought, to transform into a corporate. And then, Hoichoi's, interview took place, wherein I decided that, this is the time, because always used to think that when you go for a typical organization like conglomerates, or a well driven SOP driven organization, you will not have much to do. and that was the only idea when I chose Hoichoi over any other corporate, right? So yeah, I mean, then worked very closely with Vishnu Mata, who is the CEO and co-founder of Hoichoi. And during my 5 years there, I have been integral part of the core strategic team, contributing very significantly to the platform's financial and strategic success. And then I became part of the leadership team at NowPurchase. Here I collaborate closely with Naman and other leaders at strategic level, while also guiding the team to implement automated financial controls. And yeah, I mean, the focus is, to improve compliance and also move towards a good corporate governance, right? I mean, and to answer your question, how is it different, like to work for a conglomerate, to work for a startup vis-a-vis a conglomerate? Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different, right? It's a lot different. I would say in conglomerate or a very mature stage companies, uh, there are established SOPs and you are expected to follow specific rules. Uh, your exposure is often limited to your job profile. However, in a startup or a growing company, you have the liberty to explore various roles. Um, you make mistakes and learn multiple ways of not doing things, right? I mean, that is very important. You get to try tools that enhance your job performance and bring your ideas to life, right? Entry, I would say, is not a barrier. If you are an open-minded person and willing to go an extra mile without hesitation, then yeah, I mean, it's done. Survival, I would, however, can be challenging if you prefer the stability of a 10 to 6 job and just taking off task with an average, like an average employee, right? I mean, you need the zeal to go above and beyond and think outside of your job role. So that's very important.
So what is the typical life in a day of a startup finance head? I mean, what do you exactly do? You cope with a lot of maybe ambiguity, etc. Is it like accounting more or interacting with the VCs or investor relations? What exactly would be the typical week or a day for a startup finance? Because why I'm asking this question is there are a lot of youngsters who, just like you, do not want to join SOP driven organizations, because in an SOP driven organizations, they see very limited roles for themselves. And it is like, okay, so if, for example, if you join a Reliance Industries or let's say a Tata Steel, they are so huge, you'll be just lost in that. And you're just sticking, as you rightly said, 10 to 6 job and just tick off certain tasks and come back home. So, but then if one wants to join these kind of places, what should be one wary of? These are the pros, these are the cons, and this will be my daily life.
So pros and cons for me, 10 to 6 SOP driven job lacks excitement, right? So first of all, I would answer, that why startup, right? I mean, that will answer actually the pros, and then we can, move to cons. Uh, so, in that 10 to 6 SOP driven job, there is no adrenaline rush, first of all, right? The pros of working in a startup include the freedom to innovate, right? The chance to work on diverse projects and the ability to see direct impact of your work, right? I mean, you can rather, walk to, anyone and see that, yeah, I mean, how are they working? What exactly is the project they are working on, right? So yeah, I mean, a lot is pros. Networking with different people, with different domain people. You can walk to marketing manager and ask how marketing runs, right? I mean, so say for example, a typical conglomerate would have entire floor as a accounts and finance department, and you typically won't be pretty much or maybe you will not get time, or maybe you will not be very much motivated to move out of the floor and go to any other departmental manager or a departmental executive to understand what exactly he or she is doing, right? I mean, and there um, you stop thinking beyond your role. So yeah, I mean, a lot is a pros there. The cons, which I haven't personally faced, but I would caution others about, include potential risk of job instability if the startup fails. Uh, so yeah, I mean, it becomes very important to choose the right startup. Very crucial. So I mean, and moving to my daily life as a startup finance head, I would say, like, it start with 10 to 12, it start with researching around various areas and contributing to the company's overall strategy. Uh, I also, like you correctly mentioned, I also act as a key point of contact between investors and the company, because, post fundraising or during the fundraise, a lot of, due diligence and those works are involved. And then, you have to maintain investor relationship. So a lot of reporting, et cetera, is also done. Then, my day also, have interaction with the audit partners. And then, yeah, I mean, approving day-to-day accounting tasks. And yeah, that's it. I mean, so, if I categorize the accounting work, it would be around 10 to 15% more of a finance work. And then, the relationship work obviously is there. So that's how it is, moving on a day-to-day basis.
And the exciting part of a startup finance is interacting with VCs and the Ps for a potential fundraise. And then they will have a portfolio management team which will ask you questions about your performance, etc. What is that exactly and how does that add value? So, because for sure, I can tell anyone watching this show that if someone in the finance domain has handled one round of fundraise, their market value goes up exponentially. Means that whole due diligence, etc. So, all that it takes to raise funds, where are the touch points for a person like you in that whole process? And yeah, that should be what I would want to hear.
Sure. So, again, you correctly mentioned, like, when we do the fundraise, right? It involves conversation with 40 to 50 VC funds and the investors when we go and pitch, right? And it's not about sharing one common investor pitch room which has all the details. Rather, nowadays, investor comes up with different data requirements. They want to understand the overarching areas and entire business areas as to how that business is doing. And different investors have different requirements. So there as well we get to know a lot of exposure. Like, because you are getting 50 different minds, right? They may be one mind in themselves, but ultimately when you are acting as a single POC, handling all the data, then you are interacting with 50 different kind of business minds who are trying to invest in your company. So yeah, I mean, that way a lot of exposure is there. And then when we move to the due diligence, of course, you interact with, say, for example, you have been given a due diligence task. You are now interacting with a direct tax team where 10 members are involved. You are interacting with indirect tax team. Then you are also interacting with FDD team. And then you are also interacting with the legal due diligence team, right? I mean, and every team has 8 to 10 members in it, right? So labeling all those members, getting their queries, and then again also distributing tasks in your team, resolving all those queries, while also doing that in the timeline. It obviously creates a lot of pressure, a lot of learning there, because again, like anybody who is working in a direct tax area for 10 years would not be very much well aware of how IDT runs, right? But here, when you are acting as a startup finance head, or rather in a finance team of a startup, you would get exposure to all those areas. So yeah, I mean, that that is very important.
And I think, how would you manage expectations of a founder who is hungry for growth? Because what one of the important highlights that one must mention about a startup finance head role is that you have to work directly with the promoter, which is
Correct.
good, which is bad, because promoter is hungry for growth and he wants it at any cost. I mean, if there's a fundraise, it has to happen because the survival of the company depends on that fundraise. So again, it is different from a conglomerate where you will not have direct access to a Mr. Goenka or a Mr. Birla, and therefore pressure will
Right.
also not be there. So what are the pros and cons from
Right.
that perspective where you interact directly with a young founder?
Sure. So if your hunger for success aligns with the founder's hunger, I would say half of the problem is resolved. Yeah, I mean, managing expectations becomes a lot easier.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's about synchronizing your goals and working towards them together. So that's how, at least with me, the expectations match. Because, say for example, Naman coming up with a data requirement, but I always, understand what kind of data requirement he will have, right? Because, I also have that kind of mentality as to, what kind of data would be needed to take a business driven decision, right? So that's how, things are more aligned. uh, I would say, I mean, interacting with founder is not about pros and cons rather. But yeah, I mean, in a startup, of course, like you rightly mentioned, when you interact with founder, what happens is like you are involved in that growth, right? I mean, and not just me, like startup wherein the size is like 5 to 500, I would say. People can interact with founder, and that is a moment they also feel that I'm the part of the growth. And even a single interaction with a founder in a week or a month, which does not happen at all in a conglomerate, right? Gives you that kind of rush, which will make you work more aggressively. So that's about the pros. And yeah, I mean, cons, I won't see any cons as such here, interacting with the founder. But yeah, I mean, I don't see any con here.
Yeah, I think one very important fact that you highlighted was that you must be equally hungry for growth as much as the founder is. In that case, when there is an alignment,
Correct.
then it's okay. If you're looking for a stable job in a startup, then that will become a misalignment of values, because the founder will
Correct.
want you to work towards high growth and you are thinking, अरे मैं तो घर जा रहा हूँ 6:30 बजे, मेरा तो हो गया, मैं कल
Correct.
करूंगा. All of that will happen.
And that also is there. So basically, what happens is like, say if you have a team of around, say in a startup, if you have a team of around 100 members, you can't expect all 100 of them to be equally aggressive, right? So yeah, I mean, you have to select people who can be with you for 10 years, right? I mean, say for example, Microsoft, Bill Gates, choose 4 or 5 people who were there always, right? I mean, and that's how Microsoft grew. Same way that you have to have some people, say 10-20% of the people in your team who are pretty much aggressive, who are willing to go extra mile, uh, and who doesn't care about a 10 to 6 routine, rather care more about being growth aligned, and you are if you are growing, then the company is also growing, that kind of mentality. So yeah, I mean, having those kind of team members is always there. But yeah, I mean, you have to have the correct mix, because you can't expect, say for example, you can't expect all the people in India to do farming, right? I mean, in the same way, you can't just, so you have to have a correct mix of people out there to aggressively grow.
My final question, Prateek, what would be at the age of 30, Prateek's advice to his younger self at 18 or maybe 15?
I mean, I always, feel this guilt, but if I would have gotten chance, I would have, told him that, always be curious about new things, uh, listen more, speak less, and the most important advice, start investing in equity. Even if you have saved 100 rupees, 100 bucks out of, your stipend of 1500 or 2000, please, start investing in equity, because that will give you a habit of investing, as well as equity gives huge growth in the long term. So yeah, I mean, that would be my advice.
Truly, the best method, which I have also now finally sensitized myself to, is that equity. I used to be like, oh, it's expensive and it's all gamble and ye to gir jayega and stuff. But no, there is massive opportunity for wealth creation there. So our hard-earned
Right.
money should be put there so that it compounds over a period of time. So that's a very good point that you made, Pratik. So it's been a very interesting journey from failing in mathematics, marks like 2, 3, to topping in maths, choosing CA, working in a host of CA firms, 100 plus clients, to then working in a media startup, and then NowPurchase, which again is a VC funded startup in metals trading, etc., technology. You've done it lot of work at the age of 30. I'm sure that the next 30 years are going to be equally exciting, if not more. So thank you so much for coming on this show, Prateek. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anurag. Thank you so much.